We are being recorded. And I am, where is it? The hell is that? That's not the one I wanted to share. Oh, I see why. Hold on.
Do you want me to bring it up, Tara? I have it.
Yeah, actually go ahead, because I see why I have to go. I have too many tabs open in my browser. That's why I can't pull it up.
Can you enable and all?
Oh, yeah. You want that? You are enabled. Okay. So call the meeting of the Branding Strategy Implementation Subcommittee to order. I believe my clock is wrong, but my clock says 6:33. I think that's actually 6:38. Is that? Can somebody verify that?
That's close.
38:39, that's close enough.
I'll bring it back up. Sorry. Just
Oh, that's okay. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the 2nd of December 2020. Did anybody actually go online and look at those minutes? Because I did not send them out.
No, I didn't.
It sounds like a big no. So we will table the approval of minutes until the next meeting when somebody actually manages to remember to send them. That would be me. So agenda item 2, old business progress reports. So Leslie and I can just tag team this. Leslie, why don't you take the marketing plan bit and this, let's stop this screen share, and I will bring up those pages from the POCD because
sure.
that had the branding steps on it.
Alexa, timer off. Sorry. Sure. Am I off mute? Can you hear me?
Yep.
That's okay.
Sorry, my screen looks different because I'm like screen sharing and I'll see that. The marketing plan rollout action items. So throughout December, Renee and Tira went through town hall offices, or first they presented to the department heads. So I wish we had, I think you all have seen it, the PowerPoint of a marketing rollout and just the importance of the new logo and the process of developing the new logo. And then, so she did that presentation with department heads in December. And then it was emailed to, I believe emailed to all of the rest of the town hall staff. And department heads were to, meet and discuss the rollout of that with their departments. I think there was going to be a staff meeting in January where they also present. And then Tira and Renee went throughout the offices in the department, changing our email fonts and putting a logo on our email. And then a press release was also sent out. Winnie became aware of of our intentions to roll out the new logo. They were on that meeting. And so they, gave us some time to do a press release, and that went to Winnie and to several other media outlets. So the next plan, we don't have I know that was like the first month thing that we want to do is all digital. And I believe that that's, on track. The next in the 3 to 6 months was updating, our website and promotional flyers and those things. So that's, your screen sharing. Oh, great. So
yeah, because this was kiped from that, so it's as good a source as any since we didn't pull we couldn't find that PowerPoint. The promotional calendar is kind of up next. Yeah, I would say so. We've done the rollout of the new logos to departments. I believe that once it was to departments, we were then going to send it to the commissions to get rolled out basically by department heads at each. I know in rec we did that, but it's a little bit easier for us because Renee and I both sit on that. So we can, but it's really in the next month or so going to be going to commissions and committees just to get a small, presentation. I think this committee talked about how did we want to do that? Would one of us go and present, or I think that was kind of on the table and discussed last time. How is that going to happen? Were we just going to send the PowerPoint and let them look through it, or was one of us going to go? I mean, that's a lot of meetings. The establishment of the promotional calendar, that's still on the to-do list. The consolidation of existing social media pages, I know there's been conversation around that. I'm working on that with Trails and Turkey Trot. And then I know Renee's been in conversations with DPW and the animal control officer on that, and just doing that. And then, okay, short-term, 1 to 3 years.
Yeah, and it's up to you if you want to talk about any of these. Again, this is from the POCD. The way I organized the agenda was just progress reports on what we've done, and then strategizing about the same things going back to the things we're actively working on. We can do that in a different order. I don't care.
I think just the next thing that's really on the list is probably letterheads. I know I had a conversation with Renee before I left for vacation for Christmas about working with department heads to establish which letterhead, and then sending that. So it's like a established letterhead, and there's not multiple, what can happen when you have a new logo is that people then like adjust the size or do this or do that. And, so getting the letterhead kind of set for those department heads once they choose which way they want it to look. And then I think that's probably the next rollout, so that we start to see it on agendas and meeting minutes and that sort of thing. So, I'm guilty.
I mean, for whatever it's worth, I have created a number of nearly identical ones for all of my, well, I shouldn't say all of my departments. I have not done them for wetlands or conservation, but for me, for the committees and commissions that I am the staff advisor for, the assessor's office, and the finance office, all have ones that are modeled on that sample one that I made.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see that almost everybody is going to use a variant of that, just because it's going to be easier instead of asking them, hey, how do you want this to look?
Right. Yeah, so I think that's kind of really next is the letterhead piece, and then some websites. So more things that can be done digitally on our end, I would say, and those are, in January, obviously with things, that have been going on with folks personally, and then also vacation times over the holidays, our timetable might be, a few weeks behind, but we'll get to those things in, January and February.
All right, you want to bring the agenda back up, Les?
Yeah.
What's the response been from people that were not part of this process?
The response from the department heads was great. The response from the department heads was great. They were really thrilled to see, a completion of a vision, and had seen that a lot of time had went into it and thought it was great. And then, really liked there was a cohesiveness of it, saying that, we're one town, and that this sort of, is bringing us together as departments and towns, so I mean, Tara, did you get anything else from the department head meeting?
No, I mean, I would say that the response has been entirely positive, including from some people that I thought might be resistant. And it doesn't matter who those people were, but everybody has liked it. Doesn't seem concerned. For example, a concern that I had might be that some of the departments might find its sort of recreational theme to be too frivolous for the work of their particular offices, but nobody raised that as an objection at all. And I think it's just being used, and as people get used to it more and start seeing it on, website pages and our individual email signatures, that it'll just be a part of the sort of visual landscape that people associate with town, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. So yeah, I haven't had anybody give even a little snark or pushback about it. And I expected there'd be some.
Yeah, and Dave Lobbs from Airbrush Shack was in the other day, and he had seen it, and he was giving, I was walking down the hallway, and
because someone given compliments, said he'd seen it and he likes it, and it's really great and it pops and graphically. So and that's his gig. So it was good to hear that from someone who's kind of in the industry.
Yeah, I think it's a nice success that we can count for ourselves as a group. And it seems like a little thing in a lot of ways. Of course, this is preaching to the choir, but those little successes add up to larger successes over time. And the visuals, human beings are visual animals. And that will, I think, be sort of a little bright spot. Yeah.
Great.
All right, POCD review, just as an update, the draft is fundamentally done. It was my intent that the document be adopted by P&Z at their December 28th meeting. That did not happen, not due to any fault of the P&Z's, but due to my misreading the statutory requirements. Cindy called it to my attention. John Rice called it out as well. So we've just had to adjust. There will be a public hearing, in a special meeting to adopt on the 4th of March to fulfill those statutory requirements. The complete draft that you have all seen by now was given formally to the Board of Selectmen at their meeting last night, and they were invited to provide additional comment between now and the 19th of January, which is their second January meeting, and the PZC has the opportunity to provide additional comment by their 25th of January meeting. Those are the two bodies that actually have any role in the voting to adopt on it. So the mistake in my reading of it just gives us a little extra time to sort of tidy it up. It will be presented as a locked public draft on the 29th of January. Locked meaning I will accept comments, but I will not incorporate any until the final vote to adopt. In other words, we'll receive the public comments. At the public hearing, I'll present another document going, these are the comments that were made. These are the ones I would suggest. The PZC can then discuss and take or discard any of those suggestions, plus anything else that might come at the hearing that evening, and then vote to adopt. I do not expect that there will be a lot of public comment on this document. It's not a regulatory document. It doesn't have the same burden or weight as the zoning regulations or the wetlands regulations or the subdivision regulations. We might get a little, and that would be fine, but it's a process that we're just going to adhere to. The document's really good. Obviously, everybody on this call has been involved to some degree or another and has read, at least parts of it, if not the whole thing. It's not going to be substantively different than what we've all agreed to at this point. I feel confident about that. So that was that. Trails update, train wreck park. I did have a touch base call with National Park Service today with Elizabeth and Steph. They are going to attend the 1st of February Trails meeting, which I am not going to be able to be at, or I won't be able to be there until late. So they're going to, come in and give the update then. Essentially, we're looking at doing that interim workshop that we talked about as a follow-up to the one that we did in November in March, because that's in between the two spring trails meetings, or the winter and then spring trails meeting. And then May would have to be the student team's final presentation, because then they graduate. So, they're just information gathering mechanisms to make it a better final project. So, chugging along, chug. Wayfinding project update, there isn't really much yet, except to say that I am told by the program administrator that they expect to announce the grant awards from that CCPG program that or CCGP program that I applied to at the end of last year to maybe fund the fabrication and installation. Fingers crossed. Obviously, we don't know until they tell us one way or the other. I think it was a strong ask, and it built on a previous set of recommendations from the very same grant program. To me, that positions it favorably, but what do I know? If it is awarded, that was $157,000 that was requested to fabricate and install. I think it was a total of 38 signs at 32 locations. So some locations had more than one sign. So fingers crossed, fingers crossed. You want to take the next one, Leslie?
Sorry, I was on mute. 11th Village and Maker's Fair. Yeah, I can take those. Maker Fair is scheduled for the first Saturday in May. So the committee wanted to, of course, move it off of this traditional Community Day date in October. We settled on beginning of May, sort of centered around Mother's Day as a promotion of that. So all vendors who participated in last year's event were notified of the date, and we started taking registrations. Sorry, I need to plug my computer in. Started taking registrations. We have 8 vendors registered so far. We also did get the list from the town of Putnam with folks who participated in their pop-up Putnam and First Friday. So we have another vendor list to contact. So we'll be reaching out to those folks in the next few weeks. And then we have some dates scheduled. We, of course, will be watching state regulations and kind of making a decision probably around end of March, beginning of April, based on what the state guidelines are for COVID and if we think it's an event that we can have. One thing that we have discussed is a way to possibly limit the crowd size, you know, having an entry point and counting folks as they're coming in and out so that we don't, you know, exceed that, you know, state guideline maximum. So we're, you know, going to talk about that. And along with the 11th Village, the plan is, I believe, is to have a few, you know, at least one and hopefully 3 or maybe 4 sheds there that vendors would be in, and so sort of modeling what they'll look like. And then that would be kind of the kickoff and opening of the 11th Village. And then those sheds will be open for rent either on a, you know, weekly or monthly basis for vendors. And so folks will be able to see what that will look like on that day, and then know that, you know, informational that this will be, you know, from May to October or whatever the date is for those. And rec will be, the rec online registration system will be processing, you know, vendors who want to register for those sheds.
Right. And I talked to Dave Eddy Monday of this way. We talked to him, texted back and forth with him. So I've let him know that we are aiming to activate this as of May 1st. So I think we'll have a minimum of 2, meaning the one he's already built that could use a retrofit, plus one new one with one of the facades, possibly 3. But right now I have $6,000 cobbled together between the funds that were budgeted specifically for EDC and end of the year funds that I encumbered that didn't get used for other purposes, you know, for stuff like my travel budget that I didn't use last year, that wasn't going anywhere else. So I sort of made a PO to Dave Eddy on those. So we've got a total of about $6,000 for those custom sheds. The best we could do for that money, I'm quite certain, would be one brand new one and one retrofit. If we're getting closer to that point and some more of those, we couldn't use these funds that were designated because of COVID, occasions come up, I may see if I can squeeze a little more funding out of my office to maybe make it possible to have 2 more. But of course, Dave's schedule is also compressed on the Mason House. He is still working on it, but he knows that I want this live on the 1st. He has acknowledged that. I'm going to follow up with him the Monday before the EDC meeting, so I have hopefully a little better sense of when he can actually start, when he needs, you know, at least a deposit check for it, and that kind of thing, because that's when we'll have to start planning who's actually going to manage it. You know, where does the money ultimately go? What is the flow? So that gives us a couple of weeks to think about that. And 65 Main Street, I talked to Joey Martini the other day, and I talked to Brian Santos today to start strategizing about how to break down some resistance and start to get more of these organizational partners in on this plan. Brian had worked up a full rehab quote, much more comprehensive than what Jason LaValle gave me on the back of an envelope. Really, really well broken down. Sean Copeland did a walkthrough with him and me and Amy back last fall. An unfortunate thing is that during the time of COVID, construction materials and labor pricing went through the freaking roof. So everything is about almost twice as much as it would have been if we had tackled this a year ago. There's nothing we can do about that except be strategic in how we present it. So we can talk about that again once we get down to the sort of strategizing portions. But long story short is Brian and I are going to put together a PowerPoint, each tackling parts of the project from our areas of expertise. So, you know, Brian will talk about how he thinks we can phase it, break it down, what might be feasible to do with volunteer labor, that kind of thing. And, you know, the programming aspect of it, of course, is the part where I'm strongest, discussing it, but also fitting it in to the revitalization fabric that we've been trying to weave with all of these projects. Because, you know, I can go in and do that and have done that with these groups over and over and over again. We all already get it. But to a certain extent, what that does is it makes you think that other people have heard this too, and they really haven't. So in that presentation, also saying, look, here are these sidewalks that are going to be done. You know, we all know about the mill 10 years out, but what about this, you know, what about the 11th Village? You know, how does it all tie together? And in terms of something that we already own as an asset and redeveloping it. And we're going to present that to the trust on the 1st of February, which is why I either will be late or can't be at the Trails meeting that night. So, so those are the progress reports. You want to scroll down, scroll up, scroll down a little bit, Leslie? We can see.
Hey, Tara, just thinking about it, you know, these are kind of some projects that folks have been hearing about for a while. And although we have these meetings and they're open to the public, do you think it's like maybe a good time, you know, new year to kind of have a report about, you know, like putting on the website or just something that's like a shorter points of these are things that are happening and this is what's going on?
Well, that is part of, yeah, that is part of what I'm thinking about in strategizing, is because, again, we talk about these things to ourselves, but the convincing piece is going to be getting the general public to support it and taking control of the narrative from go.
Yeah, just
not letting other people control that narrative.
What I'm not great at is like, you know, because I have a rec site and I put this stuff up on the rec site and it's where people register and they can find that information, but I always forget to share it to the general website where it comes up on the news and that. And there's a lot of people who don't go to the rec site, they go to the news site because they want to know, well, what's happening in town, right? You know, they don't go to Thompson Rec, they just go to the town of Thompson site. So I think like, I'm thinking about it now and I was like, oh, well, really, I should be
putting something up about the Maker Square, but when we put it up, we also want to include, something about the 11th Village, if we're putting out an appeal for vendors, that kind of, I'm not great about it. I always forget because I'm dealing with the rec site. So I was just thinking about, when some of these things or updates might, and how, do we put them out as one thing, or do we look at the calendar and say, okay, well, we're going to put an announcement or something new up about the 11th Village here and something up about the wayfinding project here, when those go. So we can talk about that.
Well,
Yeah,
at
I mean,
least-
some of it, I think, go ahead, Ken.
Well, at least one of the good things is a lot of this information in the POCD, 65 Main, the trails, hopefully people will get some exposure if they do read it there as well.
Yeah, true, Ken. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And as that is posted at the end of this month, obviously, that articulates very, very fully a number of these projects and from different perspectives. So that is good. But Leslie's right. Just the base, having it in places where people can find it casually is also important. So, for example, the community garden rollout, we are going to want to take registrations for those relatively quickly, even though it's going to be 4 months until the site is technically open. Not that anybody couldn't go down there at any time they want. Those 4 months of building enthusiasm are important to making it succeed. And we do have the platforms to share that information, the website, the Facebook page, MyRec, press releases, the EDC page. I think what none of us have done, and nobody is to be blamed for it, we all have jobs, so to speak, and right now we don't have an intern, is after each of these meetings going in and not just posting minutes, but posting these, hey, this is the exciting thing that branding is doing, this is the exciting thing that Trails is doing. Like, that should be automatic the day after a meeting. So I will commit, and this is what I want to get to with strategizing now, is who's going to commit to do what. I will commit tomorrow as a part of my day to actually creating a branding page, which we don't have. And I believe that I am able to do that as an admin. I think my admin status does allow me to create a new subpage on an existing page. If not, then I'll work that out with Marie. But to start to,
I don't even know if you need to put it on under a separate branding page. I think even if it's on the EDC page, this is all EDC news. This is all centered around economic development. It's the reason why the wayfinding and the trails and the POCD and the Maker Faire and 65 Main, it's all goes back to EDC.
That's a good point. That is a good point. I mean, it is a subcommittee, so,
I just think I don't know, you can look at the website and see what's best to lay it out, but I think you want, and maybe it's a click where it's on the EDC page and it's saying, update on branding projects or update on EDC projects. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't separate it out because somebody might think, like, branding, what does that have to do? Like, why would I want to read that? Like, I don't care about fonts.
Yeah, that's not a bad point. Well, one way or the other, I will commit to, as a part of my day, getting some updates from this subcommittee onto the website so that becomes habitual. And I think it should be these things that we're talking about here, with the possible exception of 65 Main because it is a sensitive topic, but also eventually starting to incorporate that. I mean, the community garden is at that site. So maybe that is just the entree. We start posting the pictures, we get people used to looking at it there. And then again, repetition is retention. As the awareness builds, maybe heading off some of that resistance before it's presented by someone else in a negative light. I think that's where we need to go. So who else wants to pipe up and say, yeah, I think that we should do this, and not only that, I'll be the one to do it?
I think it might help if we had a short list of things that we could do, and then I could look at it and see which one I think I'm capable of doing. I know that there were some assignments that I dropped on, for example, the POCD. I could not get a copy of the map that I said that I would. There were, a couple of things here and there that I tried to do and then it didn't work and I forgot about it. But generally speaking, if I know that I have an assignment and I can do it and I say I'm going to do it, it'll be done.
Mhm.
I think right now it's sounding a little bit more like a shotgun and needs to be a little bit more like a rifle. I need to know what needs to be done.
Yeah. I think it's possible that one of the things that I would be looking for, and Leslie, you can pipe in with whatever, wherever you think our deficits are as well, is I do a ton of writing, right, of press releases and posts. And while I have no problem doing the ton of writing, everything is in my voice, right? And I am perfectly aware that I have a very distinct writing style. Look at Ken laughing. So I think having some of this stuff in more than one voice.
I think it would be great to reach. I mean, I know she's not on this call, so I don't want to assign tasks to people who aren't on the call, but from my recollection, kind of the 11th Village was part of Charlene's like vision of like, she went to somewhere and saw these huts and then, so I think to have her write some kind of an update or a press release when we do that, and I can certainly work with her on that. And when it comes to combining it with the Maker Faire piece or providing her with the information about the Maker Faire, but I think having a one paragraph about what it's going to look like and to go, and when it's going to become available and, more information will be coming or whatever, or, registration will be opening for it in X date or something.
Yeah, it is too bad she isn't here because specifically with that 11th Village, I would really like TBA, as you know, to take a partnership role in the management of it. It is a business endeavor. It just happens to be micro businesses.
So I think we could.
So I think it would be appropriate. I'll talk to her.
That's something I could get involved with a little too, obviously, with my many years of retail experience. And I think I can write pretty well. You've edited a couple of things I've written, but they were pretty much on target. So if there's something you need, I'd be happy to help out in that area.
Yeah, so let's put our heads together about that. What does that look like as we're thinking about it? I mean, I'm sitting here saying, look, I'm tired. I don't want to be the only one writing, but what are we writing and for what purposes?
Mhm.
Stuff that you're sending to me to post on Facebook or the website. That's one possibility. I feel like actual press releases should probably continue to come from staff for the most part. I think there's a formality to that sort of requires that. But those social places where people get information, I think that's totally legit. And it's not hard to make somebody an admin if that's what it needs to be, or just for me to take something emailed to me and drop it into something. I mean, I think that the writing also focuses people's thoughts on how we're going to proceed. So, I think that's helpful for two reasons. So if you want to take some of that, Brian, just send me some stuff on any of these topics from your perspective. That changes the way it gets talked about. And that is, I think, good. And then we can start posting again.
Update or.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, what else do you see as deficits in what we've been doing so far? What's stopping us from taking it from these conversations to putting it out on the street?
Commitment. Like I said, if I know that I can do something and I say that I'm going to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this list and I'm saying, well, why don't I just volunteer for trails updates right after each meeting? I can type something up and send it to you. You can edit it and drop it in on wherever it goes, for example.
Yeah, That would be a good one.
Yeah, I think that, a lot of it is kind of in the hands really here in the office with like a lot of the stuff that comes out of the town hall, with the logo rollout, that's, the marketing rollout, that's kind of on our end. I do agree here. It sounds like, Charlie could provide like a trails update with about the train wreck, and that's going to come from that perspective. I think that that's good. And, like you said, if after these meetings, we're going onto the website and just, updating it in that, those kind of projects, with a paragraph update so people see, what's happening and how things are moving forward. That's good. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really it. But the biggest thing is just, it's the communication, it's press releases, it's, Facebook, it's that stuff, but a lot of it's on, like you said, just the different voices would be nice. But moving forward.
So what are other people's thoughts about, strategic steps to outline here? Are we just concerned with communication right now? Some of this planning goes also to other bodies like EDC, I think is the planner for a couple of these.
I think it's important to figure out how the logo and branding piece is going to get communicated to the commissions. We talked about that at the last meeting, and that's something that, throughout December, a lot of commissions don't meet in December. And then we had talked about, well, maybe we'll be going. So I don't know, like, how do people feel like we need to look at those commission lists and see, okay, well, who's the person who, like the staff representative, or who could communicate it the best, and what meetings do we need to maybe have somebody go to present it, or make sure it's on the agenda. Like I said, it was presented at the rec December meeting, but that's because we had a meeting early in December and Renee and I both sit on it. But, I don't know if inland and wetlands or ag or, all those commissions.
If it's sent as a item of correspondence to inland wetlands, I know that we'll discuss it, and I will be the one to take the lead on that. Trails isn't until February, you already know that. But any of those boards or commissions that I'm working on.
Yeah, so Tara, maybe what we could do is establish a list of those commissions and committees, and who is already like.
Who's our guy on the inside?
Who do we know who could do it? And then we can send that list to this group and say, hey, there's nobody in, building, and can anybody go to building and on their next meeting agenda, or call in and, present for 5 minutes and do a shortened version of the PowerPoint that Renee has. I think we've all seen it enough that we can present and just, talk about the rollout of it, and or even just reading the press release. Putting the press release up and showing the logo and fonts and stuff. I think that's definitely an action item, because that's the next rollout. It was going from, we wanted it to go to
commissions,
staff, and then commissions, and then the public, but we kind of had to jump ahead with the public because of Winnie, but that's okay. So a lot of commission, I think a lot of people have seen it already, who are on commissions, but I think it's still important to go and have a,
Yeah, so Charlie, you are somebody who sits on at least a couple of commissions that neither Leslie nor I regularly visit. So, and that's WPCA and IWC mainly. To them, it may not seem immediately relevant. So possibly instead of going through the whole PowerPoint with them, yes, the press release, which is on the letterhead, if you were to do a screen share and say, this is the information that was sent out, it is relevant to this group because sometimes we do send out correspondence, and we want to start using that. So if you need, if you're a recording secretary, or, in the case of WPCA, if, whoever does their daily admin, needs that set of images and fonts, and I can email it to them. I could even go down there and upload it to their to their desktops if I had to. Not the most efficient use of my time, but important enough to get everybody consistent to do that if that's what needs to be done. So, to get people thinking, and I think, Charlie, this is something you actually do well, about how everything is connected, just because it doesn't seem like there is an immediate, through line to a branding image and the work of the water treatment plant. It's still all within the town. It shows a certain unity, and I think you're actually good at communicating that. So, if you want to keep that in mind, and I'll send you the official press release that went out so that you have it.
I have a question for Ken about that, and it relates to the WPCA, and that is that somehow or another they are a separate entity. And I've raised questions in the past about trying to get more connectivity between us and other things going on in the town. Number one, I am the most computer savvy person on the board who attends meetings. We have one other person who might be, but he hasn't been attending meetings even though he was elected. So that's a hurdle that I haven't been able to figure out how to overcome. I think if we want the WPCA to be using the letterhead, it has to go through the director, David, and I can certainly bring it up at our next meeting.
Wow.
But we're still meeting in person because the other two guys, they don't know how to Zoom, and we don't have a recording secretary. So what can you help me about that, Ken? Is that right, or are they exaggerating?
Your chair should be able to direct the director, what letterhead to use. I mean, that's what part of your board is.
All right. Well, I think that Michael would be willing to.
And I'm sure Mike will do that. I mean, I'll talk to him tomorrow.
Okay.
But to use that stuff, and there's no reason why. It's a very simple thing. It doesn't take a whole lot, and once it's set up in the computer, I mean, it all goes on without even thinking about it.
Well, at the WPCA offices, there is a professional administrative assistant. Unfortunately, she's hired through a temp agency, but she's been there for a while, and I understand that people there are pretty satisfied with her. So that shouldn't be too difficult. Wetlands, I'll be next Tuesday, and got Brian and you, Tara, on the EDC. So if somebody else wants to take the lead on that.
Yeah, the EDC. We don't need to present this to EDC.
Correct. Okay.
Well, everybody on EDC is already here, or
right.
Practically everybody, and everybody else has already seen it ad infinitum. I mean, they were part of the process. We're talking about giving this to fresh eyes and getting them wrapping their heads around using it. I mean, we already have an EDC letterhead with the new logo. I made that the first day. Right?
Okay.
Any commission or committee where I'm the advisory staff member, and I'm sure the same for Leslie, this has already been done. I haven't done a new one for trails yet. I haven't actually asked Karen what she wants to do about that, but it would take 10 seconds, or I can just send it all to Karen and let her do it herself because she's a graphic designer. She can do whatever she wants.
I'm not going to commit to this week, but definitely by middle of next week, I'll just grab a list of the commissions and then email this group of which ones have already been done or already has someone who's done it, who the person is that's going to do it that's on here, and then where we have blanks and where we
that sounds good.
Need someone to go. I'll send that.
With that.
And then if people want to respond to that and say, oh, I'd love to go to building, I'll go. And then you contact them and get on the agenda, send it in correspondence to be read, and then are there if they have any questions.
All right. That sounds helpful.
I think that's the rollout, that we,
yeah, good. Okay. So I think we already talked about a couple of these strategically, the community garden rollout. I think that is mostly about the building online enthusiasm leading into the registration forms being available, and then just letting people know that they're there. 11th Village Maker Fair, same thing. The the heavy lift organizationally, I think, is going to come in the EDC discussion, because they're the ones bankrolling it, and the town commission, I can never remember which one is which. That would be the managing end. You know, I really envision that as being a partnership between EDC and Thompson Business Association, with a helpful lift from REC and their registration system. So the real nitty gritty of how that is going to fit together, I think, should be on the agenda for that. I mean, you know, some of us are here already, but Yasina's not here, Santos isn't here, Joanne. So we'll have that discussion then. So then the only other thing strategically I would want to say is that February 1st meeting of the Turtle Lot Trust, which is going to start at 6. Like I said, Santos and I are definitely going to go in there and do that presentation. Now, that is the same evening as the Trails Committee meeting. Their start times are staggered by an hour. So if I can ask Joe to get us on the agenda early in that, possibly everybody on this call can be in that, attending the Turtle Lot Trust, and then go into Trails, maybe leaving me and Santos behind if, you know, we still have stuff to discuss with the trust. But those shows of support, I think, are important, even though they may sometimes seem, like when we brought it into the Board of Selectmen, like they don't go anywhere. I do think people hear, and that group of 7, I think there are 3 or 4 who are solidly in favor of this project. And then I think there are 1 or 2 that just need to hear it in the right terms. And then I think there are 2 who are probably leaning against it, but maybe are swayable, maybe are not. But all you need on any group is a majority, right? Is to start to change the perception. So, you know, everybody here has been involved in the thought process, the planning process, written letters of support, done work on the ground at the community garden. You know, let's try to make it so that we are always talking favorably about this whenever it is raised. So that it just becomes harder to raise those objections for those who claim to object to it, to have them not expect responses from more than one voice. Because again, it's that same thing with all the writing, right? I do all the talking, I do all the presenting. If it's just my voice all the time, it is very easy to make it look like, well, this is just one of her crazy ideas and people just go along. No, more than one voice is what gives it weight, no matter how thoroughly I can describe it, right?
If it's, you know, if you guys are at the beginning, I can be there, you know, if it's at 6 o'clock, and then roll into Trails at 7, and I can start Trails here if you need to stay on.
Yeah, that's, you know, I will ask Joe, because he's already said that they'll put us on the agenda for that. So I will ask Joe specifically to make us early in the agenda so we can do the double duty, as many of us as possible. And again, going to that sort of other voices and other things to say, in informal settings, you know, whenever you guys get the chance, and you're probably already doing this, but just, you know, talk these projects up and claim them, right? You know, we are doing this, not we want to do this. Say, we are doing this.
Here, the other thing we might want to think about is, like, you know, cross-promotional opportunities. You know, like what we did really well at the Maker Faire was also having, you know, the NIPS bottles and showing what we had done, you know? So anytime we're having, when we can gather again in large groups, you know, and when those things start to come out, like, what do we have that's going to be eye-catching and informational, you know, even like the suffrage boards that were made, you know, that we had. So I think, you know, at the Maker Faire, having, you know, updates from the, like having the logo, you know, the logo blown up, or having a train, information about the train wreck progress, project progress, or wayfindings. Anytime that we can have some of those bigger things that are happening when they start to happen in the spring. We're hopefully going to be going in that direction. I think that's just an opportunity. Those big posters that we had where people could stop and read it on their own, because we couldn't always be there, to explain like, oh, what are these NIPS bottles? People read it on their own. They're like, wow, so I think anything.
Yeah, that's a good point, Leslie, because as you know, my table was across from that. So I was watching people stop and read them. People were taking pictures of it on their phone and posting it. So if you get the right combination of images and information, people are interested enough to do that promotional work for you, right? That's unearned media.
Yep. And the times I think you need to think about, okay, well, what are our opportunities? There's going to be what are our opportunities going to be throughout the summer? Where can we have those things up, and what's the most appropriate event? And then what's, like the summer concerts, and for, when they're allowed to have parents back into the school and they do parent nights, rec has gone and been there. I think just having those posters, the informational stuff. And then, in the fall, when we go to community day, we'll have all that stuff for community day when community comes. And then for turkey trot, like it's gonna, the next year, I think, is when we start to gather at those things again, having it.
Chicken barbecues.
What was that?
That the fire departments have a chicken barbecue, and they always have lines of people
We can have
waiting.
chicken barbecue for people to read, when they're driving
Sure.
through and stopping and reading. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, what does anybody else have tonight before we wrap this?
I have a question about the 11th Village and then a possible comment. This is to be every weekend, Saturday and Sunday through the May through October, or is it going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? How's it going to work out?
Well, I think we're going to talk about that. Certainly every Saturday, Sunday, and we always have the ability to adjust, right? So maybe we can start with Saturday, Sundays, because, we are even if it is a small risk, it is still a risk. We want to see how it works.
Noon till 6 or what?
Well, the little shops, I was thinking those would be open longer because they're the anchor. But the vendors who would be coming in and out and setting up temporarily, what did we do the other one? 11 to 4:30, the one we did in the fall?
11 to 4:30, and we took a half an hour off. We settled on 4:30 because some people said 4, some people said 5, so we split the difference. But we saw that it really wasn't that crowded. People go out around lunch. They go, oh, we'll go at 10 and then go get lunch, or oh, we'll go get lunch and then go. Everybody kind of goes.
So that spells the opportunity to invite food trucks in, for example.
Oh, yeah, I should say, I've already confirmed a food truck for the Maker Fair, I should say.
Okay. And then the other thing about that I'm interested to try to tie in at least once a month if we can, is the concert series. I'd like to schedule it for like Tira's concert out there on the flatbed. But I also think that if we had a rain site of the Turtle Lot building auditorium, the old high school, that we could have it rain or shine, and it would become another reason to go to Thompson.
Yeah, we have the concerts.
Coordinating them.
The concerts were, we did have a rain location booked with the school for the concerts, because I agree with you, Charlie. I think rain or shine is important for the band, and I think it's great for people to know, okay, we're doing it rain or shine, and we have a beautiful auditorium that we should be utilizing. But due to COVID, we weren't allowed to enter the school this year. But yeah, we will have a rain or shine plan up at the school. There is some additional expense because that's not for custodial fees and things, but I think it's worth it to continue to offer those concerts.
I agree. And if we could have it on the same Saturday of each month, then it becomes more predictable for people who like to do such things as that.
Yeah. Yeah, we were doing every Friday. We were doing Fridays, for 6 weeks in the first year I was here in 2019.
And then last year we moved it to a Friday and a Saturday because when we move the flatbed truck, that works better for DPW to only have to move it 3 times.
Mhm.
So that's why we did the back-to-back, because otherwise they have to move it every Friday for 6 weeks, and that's a challenge for them. So we're really, yeah, I gotta kind of work out those logistics, but it's looking most likely that it will be a Friday and a Saturday, one in June, one in July, and one in August. Again, but I do think it's, partnering with the 11th Village on that and letting them know, hey, these are concert nights. Do you want to have your shops open because there's going to be, a group of people coming in the evening for concerts, and you could be open and those good things.
And oh, by the way, in the evening for a concert doesn't have to be at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So if we discover that crowds tend to dissipate by 4:30, we could say, well, let's have a concert at 5 o'clock and try to keep more people.
Yeah,
into it.
that's a good point, Charlie, and especially if they are on actual weekends as opposed to at the end of a workday like a Friday when 5 o'clock's a rough go for somebody coming off their workday. But 5 o'clock on a Saturday, hey, if live music is back in a thing again, a band could do a double. A patron could, as you say, visit the food truck, visit the Maker Faire, and stay for a concert, and then go out afterward. That allows people to make weekend plans in a sort of a fuller way.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's a good point.
Okay.
Anybody got anything else? Brian LaFrido, who shut his camera off?
No.
No. Ken, what do you got, brother?
No, I've got nothing
Okay.
other than trying to get the resistance, which I have my hands full with the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And all I can say about that is, and I say it all the time in a lot of contexts, just thinking strategically, not just because we know that ideas are good, but anticipating objections and having the workarounds or the responses to those objections before the objection is raised, like just being ready, which isn't always the easiest thing to do, but sometimes, you can get used to what people say, how they choose to object to things, and you just, disarm it. And, those things happen in private conversations more effectively than they do in these sort of public forums in a lot of ways, although it has its value in public forums as well. But, casual conversations at the post office or the bank or, at Charlene's place when you're there with people who haven't heard all of this before, those are the little whispers that start to have an effect. I say that I'm not super well positioned to do that, right? I'm always a little bit on the outside since I'm not from here, so to speak.
And you're in a tough position because you do have to be careful in what your opinion is at times.
Yeah.
Not to be insubordinate.
Right. So, the freedom of private conversation is a freedom to be expansive in what you are saying to your friends and neighbors and colleagues. Just, get people interested.
Yeah, it'll be nice once this pandemic starts to subside. So people are out there, where you get a chance to talk with them more and more at a restaurant, wherever. It is making it tough, especially with it ramping up right now.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm more than willing to be the antagonist on these things. If you have issues that you want to make sure are raised and you don't want them pointing back to you, to that one voice, for example, I'm willing to be the one that says, "Come on, guys, wake up and do this stuff."
Well, that does have value in certain contexts, Charlie. But again, strategically. And what I would say is that the more, but this is me stylistically, is trying to anticipate first and then just come out with the answers that you believe reply to the objections before they're even raised. You know, and then a certain amount of the resistance to any idea, and I'm not talking about any specific thing that we are working on. There's always a kernel of rationalness in any objection that is raised. So, you know, to treat an opponent of an idea as being worthy of the respect of listening to their idea is just as valuable in breaking down resistance, you know, as opposed to always being at loggerheads. You know, that has been more effective for me in some complicated situations. It doesn't always help or work, but yes, that sort of that bulldogging can also be helpful sometimes. I would just, I guess that's a long way of me saying, you know, just be careful of when you bulldog. But yeah. Okay. Are we good?
Good night,
We're
all.
good.
Good night,
Good night.
everybody. Stay
Good night.
safe.
Talk to at least some of you tomorrow.
Bye.
Good night.